Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. I forgot to turn on my light again here. This is kind of an interesting one. Every time I talk about short guys being less fortunate in the dating world and having a more of a struggle, I always get pushback that tall women have it just as difficult. And I can admit I have talked to women that are closer to 6 feet. And what's interesting is they always say, well, a lot of times they'll meet guys and they like them and they're interesting, but they can't date them because, or the guys don't initiate flirting with them or asking them out because they're taller. And the funny thing is, there's part of me that says, yeah, but if you were shorter, you'd still want a taller guy. We know this from the dating apps and everything else we read. And if you look at this photo here, this girl that's in this photo is something like 6'3" or 6'4", and she said she likes to wear heels, which makes her 6'7" or 6'8". I'll ask you, if she really felt bad about being that tall, would she heighten herself by another 3 or 4 inches? Like, the only people she can date are centers and maybe power forwards on basketball teams if she wants a taller guy. Also, if you look at her, many of you would say, wow, that's a pretty good-looking woman. Yeah, I'd probably go out with her even if I was like this guy, staring her in her chest. Because what I think is funny about it is that, there's expressions like she had legs for days. And back in the 50s, they used to call legs gams, I guess. I don't know why that one was a thing. But they'd say, boy, she's got great gams, or, again, legs for days. No one looks at a guy and goes, wow, that's attractive. He's got legs for 16 seconds. And so I went down through here, and this is a story that I one of you on Locals here sent me. But guys are actually becoming so insecure with their height that they're doing limb lengthenings and getting steel rods in their legs. And to me, it's kind of making them look a little bit weird because your arms aren't any longer. And it's very expensive. It's like $70,000. Now, here's the thing. If somebody decided to go through with this, like, I'm okay with it. Like, if it gives you the confidence and whatever you need. But a lot of times you'll hear women getting implants and they say, oh, my confidence skyrocketed. Or guys saying, oh, me being taller or getting hair implants or whatever, my confidence skyrocketed. But what if you had good positive mental attitude and good confidence already? Is it worth going through the heightening? Now, some of you guys have mentioned you're 5'2", 5'3", 5'4". I myself am somewhere between 5'6" and 5'7", depending on the brand of sneaker I'm wearing. I just haven't measured myself since I got my driver's license like 20 or 30 years ago, but I know I'm shrinking. I'll never get limb lengthening. I like my height just fine. I fit in seats on an airplane pretty comfortably. My feet are never dangling off anything, and it's a lot easier to get up on a little stepladder to grab something if I need to get higher, but it's easier for me to touch the ground. It's easier for me to touch the ground than a guy that's 6'6". So they say, why U.S. men voluntarily undergo limb lengthening procedure? And this is just part. I have another story I'm going to read as well about a woman, and we'll argue that point. Hundreds of men around the world, hundreds, so not a lot, are opting to undergo a sick and life-altering, they say, procedure in a drastic effort to make themselves taller. Why? Why are men doing this? Because they feel they need to improve upon their looks or get a chance at dating or for self-confidence or whatever.
So the bones are actually cuts.
That jumped in. Sorry about that. But anyway, you can see here that they cut the femur and then they put a nail in that they lengthen with magnets. And then the bone grows back. I guess that's all they had for that. Then the bone grows back in it. But I've heard also that it can cause a lot of knee problems and hip problems and joint problems because your body was not designed to have limbs of that length. Anyway, the surgeon that's in L.A., so there you go. There's a surprise. It's existed in some form for nearly a century. Typically performed on those wounded in military service or car crashes, often as a way to correct mismatched leg lengths. But in the last 15 years, it's increasingly been sought for elective and cosmetic ends by men frustrated by how they're treated because of their height. Now, let me put a big pause on there. Do you see what they don't say? They want to do it because they want to be taller. They're doing it because they're frustrated with how they're treated. And here's the thing. If you're an unattractive man, maybe you want to get plastic surgery to look more attractive. If you're out of shape and you want to have a good body, there are guys that have gotten like fake implants to make it look like they have muscles. Although me personally, I still think you should hit a gym. Some of the reasons why guys really like to have good muscles in a t-shirt, I almost said muscles, good muscles in a t-shirt is because they want to look good to the opposite sex. So I can't say that this is a bad thing. Like I would never shame somebody for doing it, but understand it's because they're doing this because of the way they're treated and how it makes them feel, not how they necessarily feel about themselves. And as a shorter guy, I think it's, I don't know, me personally, I think it's better to love the body you're in, love who you are. But again, I'm not disadvantaged in that I'm like 5'2" and maybe unattractive. And if I were 5'2" and unattractive and wasn't able to date and didn't get any opportunities with women, and plastic surgery and maybe a surgery like this would get me to at least say average height or a little bit closer to average height and to be better looking, would I do it? I can't say that I would not. Anyway, he says it's a big part of my practice now. The thing most people are interested in, the cosmetic portion of it. That's where I get the most of my consultations. He's seen a marked increase in surgeries during the bug. Now, one of the reasons why that could be is either maybe guys had free time so they could go in and get the surgery done and they had time to mend while they're at home. Or if you're a guy that, again, is doing this because of the way you're treated, maybe you've been on dating apps and you see all the 6 feet only over and apply, or I only want a guy that's 6 foot, and you say, man, I'm 5'6", but if I could get this done, I could be 6 feet tall. Dr. Mahboubian, who performs about 30 to 40 of these each year, has become the go-to when it comes to the procedure, boasting more than 45,000 on Instagram followers. So, I don't know of any women that are looking how to lop their legs off to become shorter, but a lot of guys have, and many of you have even messaged me about this and said, hey, what do you think of this? Now, I'm no doctor, but what I will say is if you're not happy with your life the way you are now, doing something like this, yeah, it may add confidence, but it's not really I don't think it's going to be that much of a lifestyle change. You may be giving up future health and stress on because who knows what happens to your legs after you've done this when you're 60 or 70 or 80 years old. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you whether it's safe or not, but I can tell you that me personally, I probably wouldn't go through with something like this. I mean, I could. I'm fine. Because this guy right here says before Scott's surgery, he was 5'7" and said he was constantly ridiculed because of his stature. Okay, I think he's probably maybe an inch. If he's either my height or maybe even an inch taller than me. I've gotten some ridicule. Now, I'm not in L.A., mind you. But I've gotten some ridicule. But I've never really considered changing my height because of it. It's just growing a thicker skin. But anyway, he said, I was not treated with respect. Every single workplace I've been in, there have been several situations where people commented on my height to discredit me entirely as a person, the 25-year-old recalled. Now, again, I've been the manager of a retail jewelry store, which was, I was in charge of millions and millions of dollars worth of jewelry. I had, I think at the max time, 14 staff working for me. Some of the women were taller than me because oftentimes they would wear high heels as well. So a woman standing next to me, and if she's 5'4" or 5'5" and she's wearing 3 or 4 inch heels, she's standing over me by 3-4 inches. I never felt disrespected, but I also demanded, let me correct that. I demanded to be treated fairly and poorly. Well, let me correct that again. I demanded to be treated fairly and not poorly as a manager. They needed to respect my position. I didn't demand respect for me as a person. I demanded respect for the position. And since I treated everyone equally and fairly, I felt, I think that's what garners you the respect that you should get. And by being kind to people and being fair and being judicious. So if he's been to every single workplace that he's been in and he's got people commenting on his height and discrediting him entirely as a person, more than likely he might have a little bit of Napoleon complex where he tries to overdo his masculinity or how tough he is or how big he is or how strong he is. And he might have accidentally been an asshole to try to prove that he should get this respect, and he's overcompensating for his insecurity about his height. Because again, and again, I'll keep this short, but at the network engineering job I had a position where I had to look over people and manage them to some degree. And I think the team got up to 23 people at one point. No one ever commented about my height. No one ever gave me a hard time. And no one ever discredited me entirely as a person. So I think he had some issues that he needed to overcome. And he spent $75,000 to overcome it. He says also that coupled with demeaning social media and pop culture's discourse about men of a lesser stature being garden gnomes drove him to seek out the $75,000 procedure. Now, I voted on this, and they say, will you consider surgery to alter your height? Only 18% of men said yes. No said 82%. I'm guessing those 18% are probably the shortest. As you can see, I voted no on here. But let's get into this. They say a recent University of Chicago and MIT study about mate preferences and matching outcomes in online dating being the key portion of this, found that shorter men need to earn more money to be deemed equally attractive to taller men. Isn't that interesting? Maybe that's so you can like form up a box of cash so you can stand on that to raise your height. He said, I felt miserable. There were things throughout the day, every day, that would bother me. When I realized I was going to hold me back was the obstacle of money. I was like, oh, it's just a game. If I can get $75,000, then I'm done feeling like this. And this is what he did to his legs. And you can see they separate the femur here. They put in a little magnetic screw and it lengthens, and then the bone over time will redevelop. Now, when you break a leg, they say the break actually is stronger than the rest of the leg. It'd be interesting to see if this bone does heal back. But again, you're putting a lot of odd pressure on your legs. And if you notice, his knee to foot ratio, the shin area, isn't any longer. So it's going to give you kind of a weird look where you've got these long kind of thighs, and then your leg length between your knee and your feet are kind of still short, and your arms are short. You know, your reach usually within a couple of inches is, if you stretch your arms out, fingertip to fingertip is the same as your height. And so that's going to be way off. So again, you might be taller, but you also might hit that weird, I don't know, uncanny valley thing. And again, no, I'm not going to shame the guy, but you know, you look at the photo of him here. Let me zoom this out just a little bit. You look at the photo of him on the left, and you can see how much shorter he is to the doctor, where the doctor's shoulder's at his ear. This would be about my height, you know? And you look at it, but his arm length is in proportion to his body. Now, if you look over here at this photo, and it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look at it, now his arms look tiny. You see what I'm saying? Like he's the same height as the doctor. You can see their shoulders now match. So I guess he's about, 5'7". I guess he's about 6'1" now. The shoulders match, but it makes him look like he's got tiny little arms. And the knee to foot difference, they don't really show it here, is the same too. I think, yeah, maybe on first glance, people might look at you and see you're taller. But then if you're like a runner, or you want to participate in sports at all, or you walk around in a bathing suit, you might look a little goofy, and I just don't think it's worth it. And they go through in a little bit more. So okay, so he did the lengthening, and he's now 5'10". So he went from 5'7" to 5'10". That looks like a lot more than 3 inches to me. Is that right? Is that right? They say for Scott, it was a small price to pay, and after the week-long lengthening process, so it took a week, he now stands 3 inches taller at 5'10". That looks a lot more than 3 inches to me, because his ear's even with the guy's shoulder, and now they're the same height? I don't know. I don't know if they say the height of the doctor in there, but you guys let me know. Doesn't that, I mean, that's literally almost a full head higher. That looks like at least 6 inches to me. I don't know. But anyway, to me, he looks just a little weird now. So if guys are going to go through that, what about the ladies? Well, if you look at my cover girl here, she's very tall, but she's also very beautiful. Now, let's say this girl is 6'3", just for argument's sake. Let's say she's 6'3", and you're a confident guy. The tallest I've dated, I think, was around 5'11" or 6 foot, but she loved wearing heels. So when we went out together, she was like 6'3" or 6'4", and I was still at my lowly ass self. So there was a big difference in our height. I didn't care. She didn't care. We went out and had a good time. She was very fun to date. But if you look at her, let me ask you guys, almost all of us are shorter than her, especially if she's wearing heels. But if she's 6'3", and you're not, would you date a woman that looks like this? If she had a good personality, like, let's all things aside, just based on looks, would you date a woman like this? I would. I can't imagine most of you would be like, oh no, she's way too tall for me. I think you would. Well, that right there debunks it, because ask her, would she date a guy like this? And the odds are statistically much less likely. A lot of times guys are just going to say, is she attractive and is she cool? I don't care if she's shorter or taller, or at least a lot of guys are like that. Let me zoom in on this gal. This says, gaining serious Pinterest, meet the woman with the longest legs in America. Now listen to how they describe her. Now again, you're not going to call a guy my height stunning. You're not going to call me hyper masculine or very attractive. But she's referred to right off the bat as a stunning model. So she's a model because of her endlessly long legs. And she has legs for days. And she's not like over the top, like attractive. Let me zoom it in here. There we go. That's the full picture right there. Now, those are some legs for days. But again, I don't know of too many men that would be like, no, I can't date a woman that's taller than me, if they're secure and they're confident. Because it's the same thing when guys are like, I date women that were 5 feet tall. I don't care. I could date a woman that's 6 feet tall. I don't care. And that's just how I am. You guys let me know. Lauren Williams, who has the longest known legs in the U.S. with her eye-catching limbs, measuring an incredible 49 inches, which is 4'1" from hip to heel. That is incredible. 4'1" from hip to heel. Sporty Lauren from Houston, Texas, reveals she has always had longer legs than others her age and believes she has a strong claim for America's longest. Now, here she is standing. I don't know who this dude is. It says Lauren towers over a guy. So I don't think this is her boyfriend. But if you were to say, let's say this guy's, again, 5'7", right? Would I date a woman that height? Yeah, I don't care personally. But I would also, like, height is not a thing for me. But for a lot of women, it is. Would he date a girl that looks like this? Probably. I think there would. Because why? Because women are primarily judged on, are they feminine? Are they fun? And are they young? I think, I forget who it was. Maybe it was actually Kevin Samuels used to say that men want a woman that is fun, fertile, and feminine. I think one of you mentioned that in one of the comments the other day. So well, she's fun, she's feminine, she's pretty, and she's young. So yeah, I think most guys would be like, yeah, she's good looking. She's taller than me by a foot. I don't care. You know, we're all the same height when we're laying down. You know what I'm saying? So, but not a lot of women will say that about men. Why? Because they want men to be strong, masculine, protective. And if you ask this girl, do you think this guy could protect you? A lot of the times women will say no because he's tiny. Now, what they don't know is this guy could probably very easily, if he knows, martial arts, or he's knows how to fight a little bit, well, he could certainly wreck her, and she's a lot taller than him. And he could probably, if he's a good fighter, he could probably be at least better than average fighter. I've seen a lot of tall guys that can't fight at all. but it's the perception. And she's still feminine and pretty, and she's got nice curves on her, where he doesn't fit the protector role. So that's why my argument is so many times people push back and say, oh, well, tall women have it just as bad. No, they don't. The only reason they must date basketball players is because they still want to go bigger. If a woman was open-minded to date anyone shorter than she is, there'd be a ton of guys that would date her. A ton of guys that would date her. This guy would probably date her. But ask a short guy, would you date a woman shorter than you? Yep. Would you date a woman taller than you? Yeah, because most of them are taller than me. Of course I would. So who really has the hang up? It's still the women wanting taller men than even their tall, lanky asses. In 2013, 5'11", Brooke Banker laid to the claim the longest. But Lauren at 26, who stands 6'4". But, you know, now I don't know if she's wearing heels, because in this photo she's wearing heels over here. So maybe she's wearing the heels in this photo, because this looks like to be more than a foot difference, if you ask me. So I think she's still wearing her heels to be dramatic in this photo. Anyway, this is her. Now, if you ask me, and again, I don't know if I can zoom this picture very easily, and it doesn't want to cooperate. Let me see if I can open the image in a new tab and zoom in. Now, I'm not trying to be mean by any way, shape, or form, okay? But when you see her, she looks very, almost disproportionate. I mean, those are very long legs. So, I mean, it just looks to me to be a little disproportionate when looking at this. And so that's my opinion. But again, she's not unattractive. They say, it's interesting to me that this is a title I would hold. I never realized that it would turn out to be such a big deal, but I'm really excited. She's really excited about holding this title. And she says the genes come from her family. Her mom, dad, twin sisters are all 6 feet tall or taller. So notice her mom and dad are both 6 feet taller. Why? Because her mom's tall at 6 feet and wanted a taller dude. So of course her dad's 6 foot tall. And because of it, they had 6 foot tall kids. She has size 11 feet, a U.S. size 11 feet, which is UK size 10. She said she can find it tricky to buy clothes that fit. When modeling, she has to work for global campaigns such as Nike and sports and fitness and high fashion swimwear. Doesn't sound like she's living the rough life for being tall, does it, fellas? She's played volleyball. Now, here's this same guy again. So I wonder who he is. Maybe he's just one of the set crew that's just helping out. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know if they were dating. I doubt it. But anyway, she just goes on about how she's excited to be a model and how lucky she is. And she works for Nike and she's got all this brand promotion. So you tell me who has it worse. The woman that has legs that are, you know, 3/4, like her hip would be at my shoulder, who is called a model and she's average looking. I mean, let's be honest, she's average looking, or maybe even a little more than average attractiveness. But she's not a supermodel by any means, but she's a model for Nike and other sports brands, probably for running ads because of her legs. Do you think that short guy had any opportunity? No. He didn't get modeling agencies. He wasn't called anything great. She's excited for this role. He was so bummed out, and he probably had a chip on his shoulder about his height that he had to have his limbs lengthened. He'll probably still be, when they call him tiny arms or something like that, he'll still have, you know, insecurity issues. So now you can say this is only one example, and there are short guys that do fine with the ladies, like Dustin Hoffman, the actor. I think he's 5'2" or 5'3", something like that. Jules Verne, who played Mini-Me in the movies, he was dating a normal-sized woman. Like, I'm not saying there's not exceptions to the rule, but these are also movie actors. Remember, the shorter you are, the more money you have to make. So Tom Cruise, if he's really 5'7" or whatever, or Tom Holland at 5'6" or 5'7", whatever they are, all these actors people bring up, they're 5'5", 5'6", 5'7". Yeah, they're also actors. Now, maybe they need to get a break, and maybe they got lucky to become actors, but they got to be actors. And once they got to be actors, they became rich. And once they became rich, that's a whole lot of money to stand on to be taller. So as far as I know, I think most of us guys can say I'm not too worried about what a woman's if she's too tall or too short or whatever. If she's fun, feminine, and fertile, if she's young, pretty, she's fun to hang out with. Like, I don't care. But you do not hear women say the same thing. The only time women will say, "Oh, I'll date shorter, I'm okay with that," is if he's exceptionally rich and give her an easy lifestyle. Guys, if you'd like to join me over here on Locals, make sure to do so. BetterBachelor.locals.com. Free speech forums. We talk about a bunch of things. Got like 11,000 memes over there now. We've got a full meme thread dedicated. Come on over. Supporting me today is $5 a month, $4 a month if you do the yearly. I would appreciate it. And then that means I'm not quite at the whims of YouTube like I am now.